So our final presenter for today is Tara Reid, the General Manager of the Abandoned Mines Program. And Tara will be taking us through how the AMP continues to transform legacy mines into opportunities, supporting safer, more sustainable outcomes that respect country and deliver lasting benefits to communities. So take it away, Tara.
It's a real big privilege to be here. So thank you for the invitation, and I love being voluntold. It's just really fantastic. And one of the things I get to share with all of you is something I'm really passionate about, and that is looking at some of the legacies that have come out of our really rich history of mining across Western Australia. We have a real privilege. We get to be out on country across so many First Nations areas in WA, and one of the things that I am incredibly passionate about is finding ways to work with traditional owners and cultural representatives on country, and working out how we can bring them along on the journey within our work areas. And what I'd like to share with you is some of the things we've managed to achieve in this space over the last few years. So a little bit about the Abandoned Mines Program. We have come about under the Mining Rehabilitation Fund Act, which got going in 2012. And we're funded through the Mining Rehabilitation Fund, which industry is a contributor. So our industry pays an annual levy into the fund based on their disturbance and disturbance types. And it was created so that the community of Western Australia doesn't have to pay for that legacy that's been left behind from all of the different activities that have happened since European settlement and when mining really got going in terms of the commodities that are out there in our state. So we're 10. I'm not going to make you sing happy birthday now, maybe later, but it's a really fantastic thing. We've had 10 years of the Abandoned Mines Program. It's taken us a little while to get our wheels under us, but a lot of that was waiting for the fund to build up enough. But it's a fantastic achievement that's been supported through the state. And, out of that, we've gone away and built this fantastic strategy on how we should tackle this whole issue around the legacy of mining and making our communities safer where we've had a lot of mining. And we've gone, well, as part of our strategy, how do we do this and make meaningful opportunities through the execution of the program as we go along? And that's what we're really focusing on. We have a number of projects that we're working on. We are currently on about 9 different locations across Western Australia. We have 2 investigative projects and we've got a couple of projects that are in planning in different areas. The 2 projects that I want to talk about today, where we've had some really fantastic wins, are the Safer Shafts for Towns at Yalgoo. We've got 3 locations that we're trying to get underway there, but Yalgoo's the one we're going to focus on in the Midwest. And that project is going to ramp up over the next few years into a really big one. We're going to be seen across the state eventually, and I think that's going to be the cornerstone of the Abandoned Mines Program in the future. But right now, we're still working out how we do it and how we start addressing that legacy of mining around our communities. If you look at Yalgoo and Kew, the gold rush era, we have about 30,000 shafts across Western Australia within 10 kilometres of our towns. And 1 kilometre of major roads, but the majority of them are around our towns in our mining areas. We're trying to work out how we make these areas safer. So if you look back a few years ago, the Geological Survey spent about 11 years compiling this fantastic inventory that we base this work on. They went out and spent all this time identifying shafts, costines, infrastructure, waste dumps, tailings facilities, anything that no longer had a company responsible for. And we've got about 192,000 features to play with, just a little bit there. 30,000 of those are shafts. So when we start looking at them, we go, how do we deal with this? What do we do? And how do we bring our people, our communities along that journey with us? So that's Safer Shafts. Ellendale's a more conventional mine site. It was a diamond mine that was abandoned in 2015. Quite an exciting project, but we'll come to that in a little bit. So first of all, Safer Shafts. We've been looking at this for a little while, and we said we need to bring the people along with us. how do we build these opportunities? How do we make them happen? Didn't really know how to go about it, and we thought, well, what if we put the challenge out there into the market and let's see what our consultants and contractors can do in this space. Initially, when I suggested to our project lead that we should be suggesting to geotechnical engineers that they need to employ traditional owners as part of the contract, she was like, that's not going to work. That's just going to be too hard. But we put the question out there anyway, and we undertook a mandatory briefing, and we told a number of companies that came along to that, we want you to employ at least 2 people from Yamatji Nation as part of this work, and we want you to make that meaningful. And they went away, and we were really surprised by the results. And we just asked the question. Admittedly, we did do a fair bit of work behind the scenes, and the team did an amazing job of talking to Yamatji Nation and working out how this might work. And in the end of the day, we put up about a $600,000 contract, so not that big, really. But under that contract, as part of the investigative work, the contractor employed 2 Yamatji rangers for the duration, and the feedback was incredibly positive, not just for WML, who did the contract work. They came back and said, we had a reconciliation policy. We hadn't really had a chance to use it before. This was a really great opportunity for us to learn from our employees. And for the people that were engaged under the contract, that had those days of work in the field, they came back and said, this was a really great opportunity for us. We learned a whole heap of things about safety in remote areas that we can take back into the Ranger program we hadn't considered previously. So it was a really big win-win. If we go to Ellendale, it's actually 2 mine sites up in the West Kimberley, about 140 k's east of Derby and 20 k's south of the Gibb River Road. So we're on Bunaba native title lands. We've got the Devonian Reef Conservation Parks just a stone's throw from E4, and the site was abandoned in 2015. They did a bit of a unique approach there, and through the Federal Corporations Act, when the company went into receivership and the liability transferred entirely to the state. When the site went into receivership and failed, so that was around 2015, we suddenly got left with these sites, and it's taken a long time to work out what to do with them. We did a big clean-up, we got rid of some infrastructure, but we said, no, we didn't really get the engagement through that piece of work as we wanted. So how can we do better? What can we put out there that might change things for us and get the engagement that we really want to see under this contract? We sat down and said, well, we've all worked in the Pilbara and we've worked in other parts of Western Australia, and typically what you see when you do these big earthworks contracts is we'll have 3 trainees. We will have an opportunity for an Indigenous business. We will have these small wins. And yes, they're wins, but we're like, surely there's got to be another way. So instead of writing into the contract KPIs around you will have 3 trainees, we said we would like a trainee program. We would like to see employment for people in the Kimberley, and we would like to see opportunities for the Bunaba people on country. We would also like to see engagement with local business in the Shire of the Kimberley West, in the Shire of Derby, West Kimberley. And we left it to industry to tell us what that looked like. We did it through an open tender. We did a 2-phase tender. The first bit was tell us what that looks like to you. They came back and we shortlisted from there and went back in the second stage, which is when you really make that proposal more robust and chuck some commitments down. And what did we get out of that? Well, in May 2023, we awarded a contract to an Indigenous business. They came back, they actually said, we're going to have 12 trainees. We're going to have 12 trainees, and 75% of our business is going to be Indigenous when they work on this contract. We went, wow, that's pretty interesting. We'll see how you go with that. There were a whole heap of other analysis and everything else. But what did we get out of that? Well, we just demobbed last week from the 3rd season under that contract. We're in the process of closing it out. So it was a $54 million contract. We've installed nearly 5.5 kilometres of safety bunds around the 2 pit voids. We've rehabilitated a 207 hectare footprint. Now that footprint includes 73 kilometres of open areas, which was exploration, the camp and some processing areas, 8 hectares of the bore fields, 72 hectares of low-grade stockpiles, nearly 40 hectares of actual rehabilitation of landforms at E9 and another 16 down at E4. So we really got through some fantastic work, and it's all to standard. But even better, and the bit that really blew us away, was the contract achievements. So we said that 75% that they told us that they'd have operators under the contract would be Indigenous. On average, it was actually 34, with 81% of the operators being Indigenous. In the last few months of the contract, we actually had 50% of our workforce were Indigenous and 87% of our operators were Indigenous. 20% of our contract spend was within other Indigenous business. So yes, we did 100% Indigenous business, but within that, another 20% went to Indigenous business and 30% was spent locally in the Kimberley. And we're finished demobilisation. So, we've achieved everything under the contract. We had 30 Indigenous people achieved 70 national certifications of attainment for machinery operators over the 3 seasons of the contract. That is unheard of. Not 3 years, 3 Kimberley dry seasons. We had 22 Kimberley residents among those 30, and 15 of them were proud Bunaba people. So how did we do it? It's about the engagement process. It's about providing a staged approach to allowing information to filter down through the community. And it's about being genuine in your intentions. You've got to think outside the box if you want to achieve something different. If we had taken the standard approach, there's no way that these kind of goals would have been achieved. So it was really great. And we took a risk. We went with an emerging Indigenous business, not one that it had only been around for a year. The directors had some great experience between them, but it was a risk. It's paid off. It took a lot of work working with a young Indigenous business, but it was really worthwhile. What did we get out of this? In both examples, we took an approach to challenge the industry norms. We didn't try to define what was possible. We asked our contractors, we asked our consultants what might be feasible, what did they think they could do, and then we worked with them to achieve it. Our ultimate goal is to see this kind of engagement across all of our projects in executing the Abandoned Mines program. We've got a long way to go. We haven't done it successfully everywhere. We haven't done it successfully even in some of the cases we've tried. We're still learning. We've got a long way to go, and there's other people out there that have ideas that might actually feed into this process and make it better overall. But yeah, it's a journey, and we're working on it together. Thank you.